Okay, welcome to the Suburban Hippie Experimentalist. Today's project is we're trying to replace my old, outdated sliding glass door. This is my friend Dwight here. Neither one of us has ever done this before, but we decided we'd tackle it. So we didn't really know what to do. We were able to get the trim off this side without breaking everything. This side's a little more difficult. But what we wanted to do is take the trim off so we could see what was under there. And when we did that, we found that it was glued to the sill, which I didn't expect. I thought it was just held in there with screws. You see they have these wedges here, and that's where the screws go into to keep the frame in place. But I didn't know at the same time it was glued. So what we had to do is we drove my Wonder Bar. Wait, do you know where that Wonder Bar is? There it is. We drove this Wonder Bar in between the wood and the frame, and then I was on one side and Dwight was on the inside, and he pounded it down and I held it with my hand. And then once we got that, so we're getting the frame out of there. And I originally wanted to be real neat about this in case we messed up and we needed to put this back. But let me show you the old door, which has been in here for at least 10 years while we were here. You see this is all insulation here. So this is a double pane window or door, and then the insulation and the caulking and the sealant and all that was all just rotted, and it was rusted in there and it would fog up. So we're going to replace it with this Anderson door here that I got. It's got wood on one side, pine, but I'm a little disappointed because I thought it was the color that was in the store, which is a light color, and it was pre-finished. But then I get it home and I see that's unfinished, which means I've got to stain this before it goes into that track because we won't be able to get to it after that. So Dwight's going to pull on it here. He's going to do it the country way. There we go. Found an ant home there. Using what you find. Okay, so here's what's left of the door frame after we took that glider frame out. Get rid of that carpenter ant nest. And this is why we couldn't get that trim off, and why we busted it is because it was glued. Because when the frame was glued into place, they also glued this trim. So my original plan was to try and neatly get this trim off so I could just put it right back up and then, you know, sand some spots and paint it, but that's not going to work. Okay, so the next step, we took the frame out. We haven't put it together. We haven't assembled it yet, but what we did is we loosely put it together with these brass screws. We used the smaller screws just to kind of fit it together and hold it. And then we measured it to make sure before we start assembling it, because you caulk the corners with silicone. But we want to put it together and measure it to make sure it'll fit in the opening before we started to fully assemble it. So we're going to eat lunch and then we're going to start to assemble this, and then we're going to slide this frame in there. We're going to use some shims, then we're going to put the door in there. Later I'm going to come back and caulk around it. Okay, since I was stupid enough to not realize that these doors need staining, Jill is going to stain these while we put the frame together in there. The stain dries in an hour, so hopefully we can get a coat or two of stain on this before the frame's in there, and we can have it all up there within 3 hours. Okay, so the frame is now together. It's easy. There's 4 screws on each corner, and the frame's ready to go in there. We're waiting for it to stop thunderstorming, because unfortunately it started right in the middle of the project here, so we had to put this tarp up, make sure it didn't come in the house. I'll take you downstairs. Jill's downstairs staining the doors. I'll show you that. Okay, Jill's about to stain the doors. She had to tape the edges because they have a film on the glass, but it doesn't quite meet. We didn't want to get stain on that. She's really looking forward to this project, she says. Just get this step. So just putting a walnut stain on there. We have to put a couple coats on there. And looking good. Thanks, Jill. Okay, so the frame's in there. Let me show you some things. We probably should have put an angleometer on here and made sure we had 90-degree corners on each one, because what we have is the frame is not quite square. Now, when we did this, I assumed that it was made and precise and square, so we just screwed it together and then we put it up there. Now, it's as square as we can get it, but what we have is the top piece here, which is this piece, is shorter than the bottom. So what you have is both sides are tipped in a little like that. Now, we have gaps here, as you can see, and I'm going to fill these in with shims. You can see I put a shim on the top and the bottom of every screw hole. I probably should have put the screws through the shims, but I figured as long as it's in there to hold it, you know, as long as the frame can be drawn in against this, we're okay. So I need to put some more shims in there, and then I need to figure out a way to bust those off. I guess score them and snap them off. I guess that's how the carpenters do it. I don't really know. It just made sense to me. And then I'm going to come back with some light expanding foam and put it in there to seal it up. And I'm going to caulk both sides with white silicone, and it'll be good to go, I think. Let's see how Jill's progress is going with the staining. She was on her second coat last time I checked. How's it looking?
Both of them have the second coat. I don't think this one's quite dry yet for the third, or I don't even know if you want me to do it third.
Okay, so here we are in the process. The door is actually in there, and we'd just gotten it in here, and it had just started to rain. But you know, I've still got some things to do. Like I got to put the trim or the door sweep in there to keep the air out. The hardware has to be in. I have to go around all the edges with low expanding foam to fill those gaps in. Okay, so there's no way I could live with that frame the way it was, so I have to shore that up. So I have to take this stationary panel out here, this one, so I can get at these screws, and I'm going to drive the bottom of the top is still mounted. I'm going to drive the bottom of the frame over to the right this way. So I got to take these wood braces out, but I think I should be able to do it once I take this out and drive it this way. And then I'm going to check it for plumbness. Make sure this door closes. What you have is, see, there's a gap down at the bottom because the top here is shifted this way more than the right. You know, and we got in a hurry yesterday. We were under time constraints. My helper had to leave at a certain time. It took a little longer than I anticipated, so I was trying to get the doors in there before nightfall. I didn't want to go to bed with a hole in my house, but I should be able to fix it no problem today. I'm thinking shouldn't be an issue, because once this is all loose, that door's out of there. I should be able to drive more wedges in the bottom to drive that over to make it nice and straight, and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so this morning I took the door completely out of there, and both panels. My poor wife had to help me, and now it's fine. I had to readjust the frame. Everything slides well. Everything is actually where it should be. Everything seals properly. There's no catches, nothing. Now the funny thing is, this door is completely not, this frame on this side is completely not plumb on this side, but yet it fits. It fits better than when we had it plumb. Now that is likely, or could be, because the floor is not level, and I didn't make sure that was level before I put this in here. So that's probably part of the problem. And it may be the case, possibly, that this frame is not completely square. For example, if there's a gap different from here or to there, and actually I do see a little bit of a different gap. It could not be square, or it may be the reason it's not square. But anyway, it fits now, and I'm going to come back with a wood chisel, and I'm going to cut all these wedges off. Then I'm going to go get some caulk and seal it from the outside, and then I'm going to put some non-expanding foam on the inside, and then I'm going to come back with some trim on here and on the other side. Okay, so I caulked around the edges, and see, to keep the water out. This down here is not a bad bead. I should have had a putty knife run along there, but I was using my finger, so it kind of looks like crap. It's okay though, because trim is, I'm going to put a piece of trim that's wider than this. I think this is probably 3.5 to 4 inches, maybe 2.5. But I'm going to put a piece of trim that goes up here. So it's going to cover all that. So it's now weather and bug tight. So I did this a little while ago and gave it time to dry. Now this side looks really bad because I had a huge gap here, but still want to keep the bugs out. This doesn't support the frame or anything. It's just to keep the weather out. And again, there's going to be a piece of trim that goes over top of this, so you're not even going to see that. So after this dried for a bit, let me show you what I did inside. Okay, so after that caulk had dried a little bit, I came back with some low pressure, low expanding foam. This is called touch and foam. It says no warp. It says it's for windows and door sealant, low pressure, won't bow or warp frames or jams. Fills and insulates better than fiberglass. So after the caulk on the outside dried a little while, what I did is I came back and I sprayed that foam in there. Now it says to put it a third full, which I tried to do, but I gotta tell you, spraying that foam in there, it's a little bit of a bear because it kind of squirts out and then it doesn't come out, and then it squirts out and then it doesn't come out. So this is what you get. Now it expands out of there and it's not warping the door frame, and notice it didn't push the caulk out either. So what you do after this is you're going to come back and I'm going to cut it all off there so it's nice and flat. And then once that's flat, I'm going to, see, this trim has to come off of here. And I'm going to come back with another piece of trim and put it right here. So nobody's even going to be able to see this gap here, this edge, or any of this. But it's all sealed. It's all weather sealed. It's all sealed against bugs and sealed against water on the outside. And also, this is a moisture resistant foam. So I'm going to let that dry and then I'm going to come back and cut that off. Next step is trim on the outside and on the inside. Okay, so here it is with the foam broken off. That is squished out of there. It was dry enough to do that at the top, and the right side is not dry enough to do that. It's still kind of spongy and elasticy and sticky. So I gotta wait for that to dry more, but so that's what it looks like. Notice you can't see any air gap or light coming through or anything like that. So that's all, that gap's all filled. Okay, so this is gonna complete the video. I'm not quite done with it, but I'm almost done. So as you can see, I put a trim piece up here to match this one. This is gonna need painted, I guess a little putty in there. And then I put some pieces of pine up to cover that gap. And I nailed them mostly to the inside and where I had braces, and occasionally I put it through the frame here. This is a wooden frame, so I don't think that's a big issue, and I tried to make it back so it wouldn't ruin the seals. But here it is. Looks pretty good. You can't see any gaps or holes or anything like that. So what I need to do next is I need to sand this down, and I have a sander for that, you know, to get into tight space. I'll probably sand this today, and then I may just go ahead and stain it a similar color to the door, or I may paint it, but that's going to complete this video. I still need to put trim on the outside, but hopefully based on the way this looks, you can use your imagination and see it's going to look pretty good on the outside. So that completes the door install for this video. I'm not quite done. I have some finishing touches, but I think it looks pretty good. Definitely looks a lot better than that other door. Unfortunately, I didn't take a video to show you what it looked like with that rotten old door in there, but I think it looks pretty good. So thanks for watching, and hopefully this is helpful. Some issues you want to look out for. Make sure when you build this frame that the corners are square. Every one of these corners is square. And then when you put it in, try to plumb it up, and then you're going to need to put these doors, these panels in, and look at it and make sure it slides and there's no air gaps and it fits all right. And then you may have to take the panels back out and readjust the frame and then put them back in. So try to learn from my mistakes if you can, and have fun. It's not that big a deal. It's just a little cumbersome. It helps if you have a helper. I've been told by the guy at Home Depot that you can do this yourself, and I'm sure you can, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier with a helper. So good luck.